Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kristin, and if you really love French onion soup, then stay tuned. But I'm going to be making meatballs instead of soup. So I thought this recipe looked really interesting, and I wanted to give it a try. So in French onion soup, you have to caramelize onions, right? So we're going to do the same thing with meatballs. So in this big cast iron pan, I have some butter, some olive oil, or probably canola oil, to be honest. I think I'm out of olive oil. But I have 3 onions that I thinly sliced, and I have this pan over about medium-low heat, added some fresh thyme and salt and pepper. And I also added a little bit of sugar per instructions in the recipe. That's going to help caramelize and soften and bring out kind of the sweetness of the onions. These are bay leaves. And I'm just going to let these slowly cook, and they're going to shrink down. A lot of the water is going to evaporate out of these onions, and they become really soft and golden brown, as you see here, and just wonderfully delightful and sweet and savory at the same time. So I'm just going to leave those for a moment, and now I'm going to start preparing the meatballs mixture. So in this bowl, I have some Italian sausage, that's my own add-on, and about a pound of ground beef. And then I'm putting in some breadcrumbs, like so, some Italian seasoning, or, kind of a lot, and then some grated Parmesan cheese. I love Parmesan cheese. I just can't ever have enough. And then 1 egg. That's going to help bind, along with the breadcrumbs are going to help keep the meatballs moist. But this is all going to help bind and keep the meatballs together. Plus some Worcestershire sauce, garlic powder. I also have some freshly grated garlic in the mixture also. And some paprika. This wasn't in the recipe, but I thought, that might be an all right flavor to have in the meatballs. So, leave it out or put it in, your choice. And then some black pepper, some salt, more black pepper. I love some black pepper. And I'm just going to go in with my hands and mix the meat mixture all together. I want to go until just, I don't see the egg anymore, and all the other ingredients have been sufficiently mixed into the meat. You could also do these in the slow cooker, I think, too, if you really wanted to. I'm sure there's recipes on Pinterest for that, but today I'm just going to do it in my cast iron skillet. And I'm also adding in some of those caramelized onions. Just keep in mind, though, when you do this recipe, the onions are going to take some time to properly caramelize and reduce down. It probably took them around 20 to 30 minutes or so, because you want to do it pretty low. And here I'm demonstrating how easy it is to put fresh thyme into the meatballs. The stems on thyme are just really thin, woody stems. So you can just hold the stem and pull backwards on to get all the leaves off the stems. You want to make sure and discard the stems because they are woody and wouldn't be very pleasant to eat. But you really don't need to worry about chopping those leaves down any smaller because they're already small enough. Okay, enough about that. Now it's time. I have a medium ice cream scoop here, and I'm just going to start portioning out my meatballs. So I'm just getting a scoop, rolling it around between my palms, and putting them on a plate so that I can have them ready to go in the pan. So I'm going to be searing these meatballs in the same pan that I just did the onions in. I have removed the onions from the pan, and now I'm going to sear these meatballs. This is just to give the meatballs extra flavor and color, mostly extra flavor, okay? You probably don't really have to sear them, but I recommend them. I recommend that you do that. So I'm just searing these meatballs. And then if you were doing this in the slow cooker, you would sear the meatballs and then transfer the seared meatballs to your slow cooker, and then make yourself a sauce, add that to the slow cooker, and then let the meatballs cook kind of low and finish cooking off in the slow cooker. That would probably take an hour or two, I would say. Maybe I'll try that later on this winter season. But right now, I just decided to make this in my cast iron pan. And you know what I thought would be really good too? Is with the sauce, if you put in some mushrooms. Right? That sounds good. If you're a fan of mushrooms, maybe that might be an option. Maybe I'll try that later. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, right now, I'm just trying to get all these seared off on all sides. And then on a clean plate, not the same plate that I just had the raw meatballs on. This is a new clean plate. So I'm just removing the meatballs so that I can build the sauce. All right. So now they're out. As you can see, there's the remnants from the meatballs. And that's all whole bunches of good flavor there. So I'm just adding the rest of the caramelized onions. This was 3 onions altogether. I don't know if I said that, but it looks like a lot when you start the process of caramelizing onions, but they reduce down by a lot. You're like left with half of what you started with. So you need a lot of onions. Okay, and then I add a couple tablespoons of butter to the pan. Get the onions coated in all that nice butter, just like this. And then I'm going to add a couple tablespoons of flour to the onions. And then we'll let the flour cook out a little bit, get that raw flour taste out of there. Just a couple minutes. And I'm going to add a little bit of Dijon mustard. I'm adding the Dijon mustard because I didn't have any white wine, so I thought Dijon would be the next best thing. And then we have a couple cups of beef broth. Excuse me, sorry about that. I'm just getting over a bit of a cold here. But anyway, I turn the heat down to like medium-low. And I'm just using my tongs to scrape up all those nice brown bits on the bottom of the pan so that everything helps to flavor the sauce. It makes it really nice and savory and rich tasting and wonderful. Okay, that's the goal here. So I'm just going to, with my tongs, continue to stir the sauce. I'm adding a little bit of salt and some black pepper. Make sure that we have plenty of flavor going on here in the sauce. All right, now that we have our sauce together, now I'll put the meatballs back in to the sauce, or I should say back into the pan, and they will continue to finish cooking because they are not done at this point. All I've done is just sear the meatballs, and we're just searing them. I wasn't trying to cook them all the way through in the first process, so now I'm adding the meatballs into the sauce. I'm turning the meatballs around in the sauce so that they can get nicely coated in it, and then they'll be ready to have a lid on and finish cooking all the way. You'll want your meatballs to be at about 165 degrees. I use a thermometer to check this. That's to make sure that they are safe to eat. You're not going to make any family member sick, and everything will be wonderful. Okay, so now I'm adding some Gruyere cheese to the top of the meatballs. They are done cooking, so I'm just going to put the cheese on. I don't prefer Swiss, so I wanted to use Gruyere instead, but you do you. Do what you like the best. And Gruyere, it's a nutty kind of flavor cheese, and it goes really well with the onions in this recipe. Let's see. This was probably a half a pound, I think. And it was plenty. So then I'll put the lid back on the pan. And now the whole thing is going to go into the oven so that the cheese can melt all the way here. There we go. And then that's some mashed potatoes right there beside it. I did those earlier. So just let them go in the oven for a little bit and just until the cheese has melted all the way. And just like this. And voila. Dinner is done. So the weather is getting cooler out now. We are now officially in fall. And this is just a really great dinner that you can make during these cold months that are going to be coming up, when we have lots of rain and just some not so nice weather. And it's really nice to be inside and have a nice hot comforting meal like this. And I really enjoyed it. My daughter really enjoyed it. It's just a good little meatball dinner and a nice twist on a classic soup, a French onion soup, so in form of a meatball. So I will have this recipe linked for you in the description box below. And I hope you check it out, and I hope you try and make it sometime during the fall season or winter season coming. And I hope that you enjoy it, and thank you so much for watching my video, and I will see you guys in the next one.